Hi, Paul. Hi, Erling. I hear you're both about to retire in a couple years. Congratulations. I've been so lucky to meet you through the System Dynamics Society and to have our work turn into not only good work, but friendship, fun, and spending most of my past 20 birthdays together somewhere around the world. Erling, here we are in Seoul. And Paul, here we are in Delft. Since I won't see you this year, I hope to use the rain checks from 2020 next time I'm in Bergen, maybe 2022, hint, hint. I wish you a productive and satisfying 2 more years of work, and then I can't wait to see what new adventures you have. Take care, and I know that we'll be in touch.
I'm Dave Ford. Long ago and far away, Paul Davidsen provided me with a unique and special opportunity to start my academic career by helping him to build a new system dynamics program at the University of Bergen. Well, I accepted. My wife and I moved to Norway, and for 4.5 years, I worked with Paul and Erling and others to build that program. I'm very proud of the program and what it's grown into and how it's built and expanded and improved our system dynamics community. My many thanks to Paul and Erling, and my best wishes to you both.
Hi, Paul and Erling. This brief message is to thank both of you for all you've done over the years to develop the field of system dynamics. Here are just a few memories. Paul, 3 times that we shared together. I'll keep them brief, but I hope I do enough to jog your memory. The first, back in 1997, we were in Palermo for an event that had been organized by Carmine. Do you remember that time? We all went off to a restaurant, and there was a long time before we all managed to get into those taxis and find ourselves en route to this wonderful meal that Carmine had set up. That was Palermo timekeeping. Then many years later, you remember back in 2015, we were both together in the States, in Boston, for a meeting of the Policy Council. And we had been invited out with several others from the Policy Council to a lunch in Concord to meet up with Jay and to hear the wonderful stories that he had to tell about the field. Apart from that wonderful meal, the thing I remember is the 2 of us spending time driving out to Concord just as a really big blizzard was about to set in. The snow was falling, and by the time we came to leave, the snow was really very deep on the road. And the final thing is something we didn't quite do, but it was your idea, and I still imagine what might have happened had it come to pass. You had suggested the idea of desert island system dynamics for the 2 of us to spend a period of time, a few weeks together working on system dynamics. I have to tell you, Paul, I thought that was a really radical idea at the time. It was something, a mode of working you were suggesting I had never, ever conducted in my entire career. And I do sometimes wonder what might have happened had that come to pass. So, Erling, some things I admire and value about what you do. First of all, I have to say, your droll sense of humor. I always look forward to the talks you give in various different system dynamics venues as to what you might have to say that both amuses and educates us all. The other point, though, is a quite serious one, I suppose, is the ability you have for finding the scholarly middle ground in the research that you do. And there are 2 papers in particular that come to my mind when I think of this. The first is your 1998 management science paper, Not Only the Tragedy of the Commons, where you acknowledge the value and usefulness of the tragedy of the commons idea, but also go on to show that that particular idea can be extended through system dynamics and behavioral modeling to explain another dimension of the overfishing that that we often find in the commons type problem. Then in 2015, I won't say much about this, but just to acknowledge or to point out your paper that appeared in the book Analytical Methods for Dynamical Modelers, where you talk about optimization methods in a kind of nice progressive way that shows how you move towards more complex methods that remain compatible with the underlying ideas in system dynamics about policy analysis. So I could say much, much more to both of you, and it's been a pleasure to be able to work with you over the years. And let me just end this brief message by saying, I guess, it's time for both you guys now to be thinking about stepping back a bit from what you have done historically. And it's good to know that you can do that in the secure knowledge that you have developed in a very thorough way many people in system dynamics that will help move forward, or they will be able to help move forward the field in constructive ways in the years to come. So thank you and goodbye.
Hello, my friends in Norway. This is Mike Spector in Texas. I understand that my good friends Paul Davidsen and Erling Moxnes are retiring, and I should be, as I am about to turn 75, but I'm still working at the University of North Texas. I was there for 4.5 years at the University of Bergen at the end of the last century. And I had many interactions, especially with Paul Davidsen, who really recruited me there. And then Paul and Erling and I worked together on a project that had to do with the environment, modeling the environment, and using the model to teach people what might be done to avoid some of the environmental crisis that's going to happen. And I think what we showed was that if we stopped all trucks in Norway, it would have no effect. I mean, it would still be a disaster. So taking such a drastic action would not undo the damage we've already done. I recall one time with Paul, we were driving, we were in the United States meeting with some friends at the Air Force Academy. We had a meeting there, and we decided we would drive up Mount Evans, which is a 14,000-foot peak near Denver. And we had a rental car. Paul wanted to rent a convertible. This was in June, so summertime, beginning of summertime in Colorado. And but fortunately, we didn't rent a convertible. We had another car, and we were driving up the mountain, and the road, they closed the road after we got onto the road that went to the top of Mount Evans. We didn't know that it had been closed, but it started snowing on the way up the mountain. And it kept snowing and getting more and more snow as we went to the top. And then we did go to the top, and then we decided to come down the mountain. And then Paul decided I should drive, right? The guy from Texas who never sees snow, and the guy from Norway who sees lots of snow, decided to let me drive down the mountain. I think he was having jet lag or something. So I drove down the mountain. We had an interesting trip, and we had many other interesting trips together. One in California, visiting wine country, where we traded who would alternate, who would drive and who would drink as we visited all the wineries. Anyway, best to both of you in retirement, and I wish I could join you soon. And I'm sorry I'm not there to celebrate with you. Have a great retirement, both of you. Bye-bye.
Hello, Paul and Erling. Hi. I understand you want to retire by 2022. I would like to thank you for everything you've done for the field and for our long and fruitful cooperation. I had a lot of fun and I learned a lot. I still remember Erling's presentation for the Forrester Award on management of sustainable resources, and I thought, did he do all of those things too? And then I remember lots of discussions with Paul for master thesis, for Erasmus proposals, and for our joint program committee meetings in 2014. So now you want to move on to other things than systematics and academics. Well, that makes a lot of sense, and it's very well deserved. But I wonder, how will all of that work? Because we just had a MOOC proposal accepted. We're still not completely through with the follow-up through the EMSD program. So yeah, I don't know if this is a good time to go. So I've been talking to your boss, and we came up with a solution. So this is what will happen. You can still stay on for a decade or so, and by that time the president will have a look and see if all complex dynamic problems are solved. And if they are, then that's fine. Otherwise, we will just have to continue, because we're doing this for future generations, right? So I'm sure that Jules right here and everyone in his generation will be thankful if you stay on for a little bit more. And I would be very much too, because you have been and you continue to be a big inspiration. So I hope, whatever form it takes, that beyond 2022, the two of you and I can still have lots of talks together. Bye-bye. Doei.
Congratulations, Paul and Erling. Without you two, there would be no system dynamics in Norway, no matter what anybody says. Don't let them tell you any different. Paul, Maria, and I had such a good time the month we spent in EMSD in Bergen. You were a great host. We had lots of fun. I laughed with you so much. And the insider joke, the reality show is still going on. Erling, I have a great memory of you and my son sitting on a couch, Hotel Albuquerque, 2009, having a discussion. I was so proud my son was speaking to the president of the System Dynamics Society, and I thought, what a leader this guy is. We can't wait to see the both of you again in one of our favorite places on earth, Bergen, Norway. Thanks a lot. Congratulations and good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, Paul and Erling. It's a great pleasure to send this message thanking you for your many invitations to come to Bergen and collaborate in your courses and projects. Bergen has become a second home to me. Indeed, I planned on being there again this summer, as I have for every summer since 2007, and to enjoy the System Dynamics Conference in the shadow of the Seven Mountains. At least I'm there in spirit. I can only begin to recount all the wonderful times I've had with you both. Erling's violin concerts, Paul's bacala dinners, skiing at the cabin, Sittemai celebrations, barbecue and fondue parties, the Blend project, and creating the Management of Natural Resources course, to name only a few. And just as you have welcomed and supported me, I know that you've extended the same welcome and opportunities to many students and faculty from all over the world, and that, like me, they all consider Bergen to be a second home, even if it's a very, very rainy home. Your contributions to the field of system dynamics are too many to enumerate, and your graduates of the Bergen program throughout the world will continue your legacies for many years to come. So, tusen tak for all you've done for me and for so many of us in the field.
Erling, Paul, I had the privilege of having you both as teachers and mentors, and I think I can speak for many of your students when I say that's something I will always treasure. In fairness, it hasn't always been an easy ride, with one of you advising us to challenge our boundaries and broaden our views and our models, and the other urging us to stay away from detail and seek beauty in simplicity. Only a few years down the road, I came to realize that those two perspectives that might seem at odd, they actually blend together elegantly, just as the rest of your teaching. We'll all come to love that. Thank you.
Dear Paul and Erling, I'm so glad to have the opportunity to salute you for the excellent work you have provided to the System Dynamics community over the years, and also for your good friendship. So my work with you guys go way back when. Actually, the time I have known you guys is more than half of my life, almost 2/3. I met Erling first in the early 80s when you had just finished your PhD at Dartmouth, working with Dennis and Dana Meadows, and you came back to your home country of Norway, and you were invited to my group at the Norwegian Defence Research Establishment, and you actually inspired me to continue my emerging interest in system dynamics, and only a couple of years later I actually went to the system dynamics alma mater of MIT and spent 6 years there. There I met Paul. So Paul came half a year after me and spent his first sabbatical there in the spring of '86, and we really had a great time together. We went skiing, not only to Rangeley, Maine with the System Dynamics group, but we also went on cross-country trips in the forests of New Hampshire. And I was, I think, able to follow you and your speed, but that was barely. You actually came back to the System Dynamics group one more semester after a couple of years, 3-4 years. But by then you had already established the System Dynamics group at the University of Bergen, and quite successfully. So then you really laid the path for a System Dynamics cornerstone in the world, I should say. And very soon thereafter you hired Erling, who was then at the SNF, the Center for, I don't know, what is that in English? Research on business research. So so there you were, both of you, and you really have contributed to the community. I've been fortunate enough to hire a couple of your graduates, and they have done a tremendous job with our system dynamics based energy transition outlook, so we're very proud of that. The company of 12,500 people is very proud of that. The CEO and his executive committee is also the steering group of the work. So of course, system dynamics is a very important part of this company. And again, we have benefited from your former students, but also from the community. So we have hired in Millennium Institute and your former colleagues there and around the world. So that's really fantastic. So one thing is the professional work you have done, and you have built up this System Dynamics group at the University of Bergen. Really fantastic work. And I think you complement each other, to be honest. The organizational man is Paul, and he's able to roll up his sleeves and take the combats that are required in a big university, big research university. And of course he teach, and so does Erling. But Erling also, and I think that may not be so well known outside of your home country, you contribute to the public debate on issues such as sustainability, resource limitations, behavioral economics, and the energy transition. And sometimes you invite me to be a part of that, and of course I do, and I think it's good fun. And sometimes we also work with Jürgen Randers on these issues. So that's really fantastic work you are doing there for society at large. I should, however, not forget that you have provided me with a great camaraderie. So when you come to Oslo, I try to invite you also to my home, and you have invited me to yours in Bergen. And so you've seen my family, and I've seen yours. So that's really also a great challenge. So, of course, the reason why we make this tribute on video and not in person is because you have been unable to organize a real conference because of the COVID. And then I have to compliment you on 20 years ago when you organized the International System Dynamics Conference in Bergen. And not only was it a great effort you had there. You had the Håkonshall hosted by the mayor of the city of Bergen, but you also had the great conference dinner up at the Fløyen restaurant with the funicular, where Erling had invited the Norwegian champion fiddler, Hardanger fiddler, and I still have fantastic remembers of that music. Of course, you play the instrument yourself, and a great one at that. But you thought that we were better served by the Norwegian champion, and I think that's fantastic. So of course, I hope you will be able to do some of this at this virtual conference also. But meanwhile, I have to congratulate you on the contribution to the System Dynamics Society, and actually your former students last fall I should say, organized the first Norwegian chapter of the System Dynamics Society, and I look very much forward to that work also. So all in all, and as I said, as we say in Yiddish, bis zum 120, I'm only halfway there, and you have a couple of more years than me. And I really look forward to your cooperation well beyond your age 70. I think they're opening now for 72 or 75. Of course, with the US president being allowed to sit in his seat by the age of 82, there is no reason that you should lay down on your laurels. So I look forward to that. Bye-bye and all the best.
Kjære Paul og Erling. Dessverre kan jeg ikke være i Bergen i dag, men jeg håper alt er godt med deg. Let me switch to English so some more people can understand. As you may know, I spent a sabbatical at the University of Bergen in the late 90s. Since then, I owe two things to Paul. First, water can be something interesting. And second, if you put in the effort and you think your model is okay, trust the outputs, even if at first they don't seem particularly plausible. Let me elaborate on this and start with a piece of fieldwork. The picture on the left shows Ringedalsvann. This made me understand that water is actually the raw material for hydropower, and that's what makes it interesting. This project introduced me to energy research, which has been the main focus of my work for the last quarter of a century, and which doesn't make me sound any younger. Next, let me turn to the second issue, trust in one's model. Imagine a sunny afternoon in Paul's cabin, finishing off a model, enthusiastic, things are working almost perfectly. Until suddenly we noticed that water was running uphill. For those of you not familiar with hydropower, as a rule, water is supposed to flow from the reservoir to the turbines, not into the reservoir. After catching some grey hairs, we decided to call our contacts at the company, Morten Ruud. His answer was categorical. The model is correct. It turns out that we actually managed to capture correctly how water is being transferred between different reservoirs when needed. In particular, when a small reservoir high up in the mountains was close to flowing over, the staff would use the pressure of water to transfer part of its content to a larger reservoir somewhat lower down, resulting indeed in a bit of water flowing upwards. The conclusion is, when you observe an unexpected behavior, think twice before throwing out your model. The model could be right. Paul, Erling, jij hoper at Norderer pensioneert, fiscal meute ien, I Bergen, I Lausanne, eller I Anstedt. Til da, ha det bra I denne vanskelige tiden.
Hi, Paul, my old friend. I can't believe it's now the time to talk about your retirement and so on, although it is certainly well deserved. And I just wanted to say a few words about how I see you and how I appreciate you and what you've done for our field, and also what you've done for me personally, and share a few fond memories that we've had. I actually looked back and thought about when we first really started to interact, and it's basically 30 years ago. I can't believe that. When I was still at the physics department at the Technical University, and you wanted me to come to Bergen to teach in your new program, the System Dynamics program up there, which became the System Dynamics Masters, which eventually evolved into the European Masters program. And I would certainly say that that has been one of your really magnificent contributions, hosting that and driving that development and creating a strong scientific community around system dynamics in Europe. You've always been so optimistic and so energetic and so much fun to work with. You're a sort of a real yes person, and I really appreciated that. I felt very, very well received by you. We also, perhaps you can remember, we had some interactions in Copenhagen where you had the Egyptian PhD students, Mohammed Saleh, from your program. We had some interactions developing some of these analytical techniques for system dynamics, which you were quite involved with at that time. And I really enjoyed our cooperation there, and I think it's made a real contribution to our field in many ways. So, that's really something that I think we can all appreciate. And certainly for me, it has been tremendously rewarding coming to Bergen and being part of the community that you created there. That is, in many ways, still continuing, actually, with Birgit, who's arranging this as a memorial for you. I just wanted to share a few memories. I remember skiing with you in Bergen. I think we took the cable car up to Ulrike, and at another point we also drove to some mountains that were just outside of Bergen. And I just remember being really impressed by how good a shape you were in. We did Langrenn, and you certainly put me through some good paces there. And it was quite extraordinary to be able to just within a very brief time go from the academic environment down at Fish and Chips, down by the harbor in Bergen, and then up
skiing where there was snow, even though it was late spring. That was quite an experience. And also seeing the old railroad tunnel that was built there, that was really impressive. So I really enjoyed that memory. Another thing that you did in Bergen, I remember, was we went down to Borgen to eat, and then you told me that it was actually possible to get a whale steak, but it was sort of a little bit of a secret thing, because it wasn't quite politically correct to eat whale meat. So eventually you managed to contact the maitre d' in the restaurant and said, can you get whale steaks here? And then it was all very hush-hush, and then eventually they served me a whale steak. It was a bit dry, unfortunately, but it was certainly fun to see how eating whale meat was a little bit of a secret thing. So in any case, I really have enjoyed our friendship and working with you as a colleague, and I'm grateful for myself and on behalf of all my colleagues and my friends for what you've done for all of us. And I wish you a well-deserved and happy retirement, Paul. Take care. Hi, Erling, my old friend. I can't believe that you're retiring now. We get to be some old folks here. And I actually needed a calculator to think about how long you and I have known each other. Basically, the first time that we met was in 1980. That's quite a long time ago. And we shared an office at the Resource Policy Center at Dartmouth College, where Dennis and Dana were running it, the program in system dynamics and environmental policy. And we had a tiny office together, so we almost sat on each other's laps. It was really quite modest environments there. And some of the things I remember about you, I'll get to your professional stuff later, but I just remember that you had this incredible magnetic ability to attract females. That the women just loved you, this tall, handsome, Viking-looking guy and so on, including one particular female, which was Heather, my future wife, which came in. She was kind of having the yens for you, and I remember that she came in and she wanted to go out with you, and she came into our office and asked if you were available to go out on a date or for dinner and so on, and you said no. You had some other engagement or whatever, and then I said, oh, but I'd like to go. And so Heather and I went out to dinner, and the rest is history, basically, right? She became my wife, and we were married for over 20 years. We were together. So that was quite a momentous occasion. And I do remember, though, that you were very popular with the female gender. So I was a little bit envious, actually. I would tell you that I'm also so happy that we had a chance to reconnect in Boston a couple of years ago when you were at MIT on sabbatical, as was I, and we again shared an office just like old times. And I just really have enjoyed our friendship. I appreciate the way that you stick to your old connections. I remember you had a dinner inviting over Terry McGuire and Rainer Kern, both from the Resource Policy Center folks there. And we had a dinner together at your little rented place in Cambridge. Well, and it was just so nice to see both how you keep connections to old friends, and it was nice being together then again. So, in terms of your, let me, before I go to the professional stuff, I mean, the thing that I think I admire most about you, Erling, is your sheer strength and stamina. It is unbelievable. And also your courage. You had, of course, this terrible bike accident before you came to Boston. and it really, a pretty serious hip injury, as I recall. But, you just stick to it and you keep going, and you were able to basically get back on your feet and recover very well. I'm just really impressed with that. And that stamina also, I think, goes for your intellectual work. That you had this ability to just focus on things and get it done. And that is really admirable. So I think in terms of your work, the things I'm most interested me has been your work on using decision-making games, both as a tool for research, find out how people make decisions, specifically how they make misperceptions of feedback, the stuff that John has also worked on for a long time. And then also using it as a tool for how we can design better interfaces or teach people how to make better decisions in these dynamically complex systems, particularly these fisheries dynamics and so on. I think that's really relevant and interesting work that you've done there. But you've also been basically sort of more or less, fearless in terms of what the things that you threw yourself into. I remember your PhD thesis was about the macroeconomy and the Norwegian disease and the Dutch disease and so on, about the oil money coming in from Norway and so on, which is a huge undertaking in itself. And you've also dabbled in some of the math stuff with eigenvalue analysis and so on. You just put your head to it and you barrel along, and I'm really impressed with that. You're hardworking and you're dedicated, and of course you're a smart guy. So it has just been so much fun sharing an office with you in times two, and I really appreciate you as a colleague and as a friend, and I look forward to spending some idle time with you and just reminiscing whenever the occasion comes. So enjoy your retirement, my friend.
Hi Paul, hi Erling. Such a pity that we won't be able to join you in Bergen this year for the conference. In any case, I'm sending you our warmest regards from Lisbon and Nova University, and a thank you note for all your enormous contribution to the system dynamics field. I think that you truly made the University of Bergen a must-go place to study and learn system dynamics in Europe. And I was able to experience firsthand the quality of education and research and your relentless efforts put into your local programs and also in the European Master in System Dynamics, where we had the chance to work more closely together over the past years. It would be so difficult to pick one project, one contribution, one story from the past. So I rather pinpoint two of the current and future projects that Paul and Erling are developing and that I'm so lucky to be a tiny part of. This project that Paul is coordinating in Africa for UNAP on coexistence landscapes really defines, I think, Paul's excellence, and only he could so brilliantly gather a team of facilitators and modelers who is engaging over 100 stakeholders in Botswana and Zimbabwe to discuss policies for wildlife conservation and human development and building an interactive learning environment. And I think that really only he had the capacity to build such a team and coordinate such work. In the case of Erling, I think that the work that is being done on massive online courses is going to have a huge impact. So I think that was only through Erling's perseverance and coolness that is being able to convince more and more people on the importance of these tools and platforms. And there's a very significant and excellent work being done on system dynamics and sustainability MOOCs. So I really want to thank you for all that I've learned from you and the way you inspire us all to be better system dynamicists. And most of all, I'm really thankful for your friendship, and I hope to see you again really soon. Be well. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Brigitte, for this invitation. As I had the opportunity to spend more time with Paul, so my clip is more about him. So sorry, Erling. I'm sure that you understand. There are many jokes I could share with you since I met Paul for the first time, and it was 1997 when I moved from in August from a sunny Palermo to a fascinating, although raining and cold Bergen. Of course, weather conditions were omitted when Carmine kindly suggested me to attend the Master of Philosophy and System Dynamics in Bergen. But I could definitely say that this experience, and in particular what I learned from Paul as a person and as a professor, contribute to change my life significantly. Of course, apart my wife and my 3 sons. So I want to share with you 2 more experiences, one funny and more serious. So first of all, the funny. So once Carmen invited Paul and other colleagues, Ken Winch, Marcus Ranninger, Jack Phoenix, to run a workshop with small medium entrepreneurs in Palermo. You will see the picture soon. And during the weekend, we moved to a nice beach town where there's also a winery somehow related to my family. And we went there for a wine tasting in the morning, just before going to the beach. So the fun thing was that while we started the wine tasting, and Paul started drinking a little wine, and then the remaining, which was in the glass, he threw away in a hole in the middle of the table. So the first time, second time, the third time, then Graham Winch stopped him and said, "Paul, what are you doing? You can't do it." So, and you can see from the picture, it will appear soon that it seems they enjoyed this experience. So the other more serious is the experience related to my master in Bergen. So I remember that there was a classmate which I would not really classify as a desirable pupil. He regularly missed Paul classes, and he was always late. So after one lecture, Paul went to the student and they say, "I need to talk with you now." So Paul went to the student. He spent more than 1 hour with him, explaining that his misbehavior would have impacted negatively on his evaluation, and probably dropped him from the program. I was impressed at that time because Paul was, in the way how Paul treated the student. Paul was very patient while explaining the student how to recover from his undesired situation, and was smiling. So he tried to emphasize with the student, but he was also firmly determined to communicate to the student to change behavior immediately. So Paul, at that time you offered me a great lecture. As a teacher, you have an important responsibility to help all your students, no matter if she or he is brilliant or is mediocre. So your responsibility is to support all of them. So as Paul students, you always, I could say, feel that you will never walk alone. So Paul, thanks for inspiring me also on this and how to deal with students, and the warm regards from Palermo to all of you. Bye.
Hi friends. I'm so glad to have this opportunity to give my thoughts and feelings with about 2 important friends, Paul and Erling. It's incredible to think that they are approaching their retirement. They're so young, not only in mind, but even physically, in terms of way they behave. I would like to start my thoughts by thinking that about the System Dynamics group at the University of Bergen. Well, imagine to think that group as a company, as a business. This is an incredible example of a successful entrepreneurial organization led by important entrepreneurs with two important and complementary roles. Complementary because they actually refer to different profiles and personalities which well match each other. The entrepreneurial person oriented to growth and to communicate to people new ideas and go more in depth towards new fields to explore. And this is, I think, the profile of Paul. And the other important entrepreneurial role of the person, the entrepreneur, who ensure that the push towards new fields, new environments, and new activities can find stability, can find even consistency in the implementation. Well, this is typical an attribute I would like to particularly refer to Erling. The two profiles, personalities, I think they are well matched in an incredible mixture that gives an idea of why the University of Bergen in the System Dynamics group has done incredible things in terms of contributions to the system dynamics field in the last, well, at least 25, 30 years. I personally met for the first time in my life Paul in the year 1994. And that was during the System Dynamics conference in Sterling. And I was impressed by his traits. He was so natural, it was so natural for him to deal with me directly as a friend, as a colleague who was not in contact with him in the past, totally from a different field. And that was incredible. He talked to me about the Erasmus project and about his entrepreneurial idea to generate a network about system dynamics in Europe through the Erasmus funding. That was the seed of our collaboration, our friendship on the other side, and the seed for generating a system dynamics group also at the University of Palermo. I remember that in around 1995 and 96, I asked Paul directly to help me to develop, to build, to generate opportunities to have a development of a system dynamics group in my department at the University of Palermo. And actually his positive mood and his devotion to the work was so natural that starting from that time up to now, I think that at least 60, 70, maybe 80 people have been trained in system dynamics starting from 1995 or 96 through different settings, different media, different means at the University of Bergen by Paul, Erling, and the faculty at the System Dynamics group. Important cornerstones of our collaboration, so important cornerstones of my personal feelings also and experiences with Paul and Erling have been initially, as I mentioned, through the Erasmus, which was initially Erasmus and then it became Socrates. And that was a foundation for our friendship and scientific collaboration and even teaching collaboration. But even later, through the Erasmus Mundus, that was a very important activity that was generated by a network of institutions, of universities, that allowed us to generate even more synergies, starting from more or less the 2007. Synergies in research, but particularly synergies in teaching. And again, the System Dynamics group at the University of Bergen did a great job by developing the characteristics of this program, particularly in terms of giving a mission to the program, in consideration of the fact that in the first semester of the program, students have been used and are used to spend their own first semester in Bergen. So they, in a sense, initialize students. I also want to mention my personal experiences with friends in Bergen, and primarily, again, Paul and Erling, in terms of historical interaction with them, regarding the PhD program. Well, there was a time, more or less in around the year 2005, when I was trying to generate an international PhD program. And the first person to whom I talked was naturally Paul, to say, well, Paul, how can we generate this kind of change? And I still remember there was a time, it was around the 2006 or 7, when we were going to Nijmegen. We were in a train, and in a coach of the train, we were writing specifically the first draft of the outline of the program, which started in terms of collaboration, in terms of it was not really double degree, but collaboration, so that our students spend a semester in Bergen. Some others have already also done their own PhD thesis with the support from the faculty of Bergen. Well, this was started in the 2007, and that still exists. So it is more than 10 years, I would say almost 15 years of continued activity regarding the PhD activities. So all our PhD students, PhD graduates know Paul, know very well Erling, and the system dynamics group at the University of Bergen. That is a marvelous asset for the system dynamics society as well, because of the tremendous contribution in terms of development of the field, in terms of generating new knowledge by the students from different areas of the world. If you go, and we know very well, so I'm saying something which has been experienced by I think all of us. If you go to Bergen, you find people, students from several parts of the world, from Europe, from Africa, from Asia, from the US and Americas, many from the Americas as well, and also from Australia. So this is a very, very international. So the global scope of the vision has contributed significantly to the field, but even the contact with practitioners, with enterprises, with public sector organizations. This is also associated with the entrepreneurial role of both Paul and Erling in starting more and more projects in order not only to get the funding, but to use the funding for specific purposes that can be turned in new knowledge distributed to the students and new knowledge capitalized in terms of research. And this is fantastic. So I didn't mention, of course, the many enjoyable experiences, even in terms of fun we had together during the many occasions, conferences, seminars, summer schools in different parts of the world. I had the pleasure to host both Paul and Erling in Palermo in different occasions. That was an incredible treasure in terms of friendship, in terms of interactions, etc. So this is very, very important as well to consider. So my wish is that retirement will be an important step in not only personal but even professional life, but as a step which doesn't generate or will not generate any drastic discontinuity from the past to the future. Knowledge and people are forever. So my hope and my aim, it's my hope, my wish is that the collaboration and the friendship for sure, but even the collaboration with Paul and Erling will continue even beyond their retirement. That will be a treasure for all the community. And I'm sure, starting from the colleagues at the department in the System Dynamics Group at the University of Bergen. So, friends, thank you so much for what you have given to me and also to the scientific community to which I belong. Ciao, grazie.